Here we are looking at the demo for Sickness. It's a visual novel, and it's not going to demo itself. Found it on Steam. I kind of like the art style. But beyond that, don't know much besides probably some murder going on. So let's see what's up. Murder. One of the most heinous crimes a person can commit. What did I tell you? The act of taking another human being's life. The act of robbing a person of their already limited time on this planet. It is a fear-inducing crime which anyone can commit. Every housewife, every student, every police officer is a potential killer. Yeah, don't we know? Especially on that last one.
Keep your politics out of my games, dude.
It's a crime that doesn't discriminate by blood or circumstance. It is a crime which can be committed by and make victims of just about anyone. Everybody remains both a potential killer and victim, blissfully ignorant of the fact that they could be next, assuring themselves that it could never happen to them. Is he dead or just whooped? Probably dead. And so, as a result of that naivete, those very people never see it coming. Though the scene before me may seem horrific, in this case, as with so many others, there's no great story behind it. There's no build-up, no resentment between the victim and myself, no mutual hatred that gave us reason to fight. Doesn't quite say whether or how intentional this was. I'm a little worried about this. We didn't spend years at each other's throats. We had never fought before, and neither one of us saw this coming. In reality, this is the result of a simple, common scenario, one we've all heard before. Penny-pitching employer, a bankrupt employee, and a denied paycheck. You know, there are legal means to take care of that, I'm just saying. Truly, there was nothing special about this encounter. My boss didn't taunt me or attempt to exacerbate the situation. He didn't fire me, insult me, or do anything to tempt fate. If anything, I'm the one who made things worse. Rather than try to reason with him, I lashed out, beating the pompous man in front of me to a bloody pulp. I knew it wouldn't accomplish anything. I knew attacking him wouldn't get me the money I needed, and yet I needed to punish him? That's right. Like a voice inside my head. Ooh, red viney things. I don't know if those were there before, but they're there now. As self-righteous as it sounds, I couldn't let him get away with what he did. The money that greedy bastard owed me, a pittance to him, was everything to me. It would have fed my sister and I, secured our lease for another month, perhaps even granted us a brief respite from the hell we're currently living. It was a shining beacon in our otherwise miserable lives, a way to ensure our survival during such a trying, stressful time. But because of that narcissist whim, all hope I had of repairing my broken life vanished. He would deny me shelter, food, comfort, and for what? New seats for his car, a fancy watch, a new TV? And so, staring this injustice in the face, hearing firsthand how little my life meant to him, I snapped. Of course, as fitting as it may seem to reciprocate his indifference to my life by taking his, doing so was never my intention. True, I wanted to kill him. I wanted to make him suffer by belittling my life, for denying me even a moment of peace. But I realized then, as I can clearly see now, that lashing out wouldn't solve anything. So why'd I do it? Why would I resort to this? Why would I deliberately choose this no-win situation? If I were to commit a criminal act, why resort to violence rather than theft? If this were truly about my wages, why seek revenge rather than alternative means of compensation? Fortunately, there's only one answer I can give in which I am confident. You're losing your mind. It isn't the first explanation that came to mind, but it does make sense. A few hours ago, I would have laughed at the cliché of a criminal blaming the voices in their head. Even more so at the notion that a person would act on the silent words of an unseen entity. However, as evidenced by the corpse at my feet, those words aren't so easy to ignore. As I attempted to survive in this two-class society, willfully believing that I was somehow immune to the corruption and classism plaguing this town, there's always a voice whispering to me, telling me not to believe the good fortune around me. A voice filled with skepticism and doubt, preempting the inevitable, telling me to take action before it was too late.
But you didn't listen.
That was my first mistake. They're growing too, I noticed. Interesting. I ignored the benevolent advice offered to me, the predictions now shown to be accurate. The good faith I received from something asking for nothing in return. Would have told me to stay in school and live with a guardian. Would have told me to seek work elsewhere. Would have told me to look for a home somewhere safer. I didn't listen. Every step of the way I fought against the sound. Logical advice it offered. If anything, I made a point of doing the opposite of what the voice told me to do. Or at least,
until you heard what you wanted to hear.
And that was my second mistake. It wasn't that I refused to heed the voice's advice. I simply wasn't interested in taking the safe, responsible route. So by the time that violence had become the advised course of action, my path had already been determined. Da-da-da! Chapter 1. A New Life. Ooh, there's dates. Monday evening, September 5th. I like the whiteboard, but the fact that they actually drew it all in. It's almost like a photograph. But then you look at the plan, and it's like, oh, that's kind of fake. Less than half an hour ago, in this very room, I committed a serious crime. A very violent crime. The kind of crime for which people go to prison, without any hope of ever leaving. I lost control of myself, attacked my boss, and without a doubt ended my short time working in this place. I acted on impulse as I stared in the face of an injustice that threatened to take away my home, allowing myself to do the only thing I could to avoid feeling powerless. But as the adrenaline wore off and the tension cooled, I soon realized my mistake. I saw clearly the fresh corpse at my feet, the stained carpet beneath it, and the bloody hands responsible for everything before me. Now you fucked up! And so I stared at my own handiwork, accepted the gravity of the situation before me, and took immediate steps towards regaining control once more. You know, when you called me here, I figured you needed my help with something not strictly legal. But this? Suo, my man, you have outdone yourself. You really do have a bright future ahead of you. Unfortunately, given my dire situation, my options were quite limited. Staring an imminent prison sentence in the face, I called upon Marcus, a coworker of mine. Contrary to his crappy dye job and lean figure, doesn't look that crappy. Marcus is a man of many trades, several of which aren't entirely legal. I also don't know why a crappy dye job, or not crappy dye job, would preclude being a criminal. But anyway. Since the moment I began working here, Marcus has been open about his criminal dealings, more than once hinting that he could help me, or vice versa. And now that things have come to this, it's time for him to make good on that promise.
Oi, less talking, more lifting. I'm here to help you two out, not take care of everything myself.
The second Marcus saw our boss in the current state, he understood the situation. Without asking a single question, he promised to help me out of my predicament, thereafter calling a man whom I'd never met before. And surely enough, upon seeing our boss's corpse, the stranger smiled to himself and grabbed Mr. Mudo's legs, dragging his body into the doorway before requesting assistance. Don't be like that. Surely a big strong man like you can lift that wee piece of shit by yourself?
And get this poor sap's blood all over me in the process? Either give me a hand or do this yourself.
Marcus and his acquaintance carried my boss's corpse into the stranger's van, which was parked just outside of Mudo's office. Thanks to the proximity of my boss's office, nobody heard our scuffle over the machinery used within the warehouse, and Marcus's acquaintance was able to block visibility and access to the office with his vehicle. Even so, despite knowing how fortunate my circumstances were, I couldn't help but feel anxious. Whether these two successfully cover up Mudo's death or not, there's no way this can end well. All it would take is one witness, or a slip of the tongue, and I could wind up in prison. And even if I do get away with this, what then? Will I be indebted to Marcus forever? Will he ask for something extreme in return for his silence? No matter what scenario I envision, it doesn't bode well for me. Phew, that bastard's heavier than he looks.
Tell me about it. I thought my corpse handling days were long over.
His corpse handling days? This guy sounds like the right person for the job, but just who is he?
Anyway, I'll handle the disposal. You two clean up in here, alright?
You're the boss, Andre. Just leave the rest to us. After all, that'll give us time to talk about repayment.
And there it is. It's not unreasonable for Marcus to expect something in return. I called on him knowing full well that I need to repay the favor. Even so, just think about how he'd expect me to repay something like this.
What do you have in mind, exactly? Oh, nothing big. At least not for someone like you. But really, before we get into that, I gotta tell you. I picked you as a fighter from the moment we met, but to actually kill somebody? I seriously underestimated you.
Marcus makes it sound as if I planned on killing Mido from the start. But I'm no killer. Even if I've been in my fair share of fights, I've never tried to kill someone before.
With that in mind, I have the perfect job for you.
I'm sure he does. But given the events leading up to this moment, I have to ask.
Is it a legal job? Sure, why not? As long as you don't get caught, of course.
Figures.
Oh, cheer up. I'm just messing with you. I got the perfect job in mind for you. You'll be able to rake in money, feed that aggression of yours, and pay off your debt almost immediately.
Oh, really?
Interested?
Hang on. You're offering to pay me while I repay you?
Of course. Considering the reason we're here, I thought it would be better not to get between you and your money.
Fair enough. Whatever the case, what kind of job are we talking about? I brought you here to get me out of trouble. There won't be any point if you just drag me in deeper.
You really don't have any faith in me, do you? Well, so be it. Just keep in mind you're worth more to me alive and well than in prison.
That is a fair point.
Not that you have a choice anyway. You want all this kept secret, you're going to do exactly as I say.
Richmond, a town riddled with crime and corruption. Richmond is a vast town, a collection of smaller districts, each varying significantly in terms of wealth, ethnicity, and population density. Large enough to entrap millions of everyday citizens, yet dense enough to suffocate any who dare reside within. It's a complicated town, misunderstood even by those living within its walls. But beyond the size and scope of this town, there's one aspect that stands out above all others. It's a concentration of wealth. Hence the rich. This is a town wherein the wealthy flock together, creating their own small utopia. They build up selective parts of the city, sculpt the law to their own liking, and generally get away with whatever their bank balance will allow.
Gentrification.
The end result has been the creation of a state-sized town comprised of countless districts, varying from wealthy suburbs filled with hospitals and schools to those lacking even phone lines. Put simply, this is a two-class society, heavily favoring the rich. As someone living in a wealthy suburb while working among the poor, I'm fairly familiar with both sides of this city. Thanks to those who cling to every cent, labor can be commissioned for next to nothing, making Richmond a surprisingly cheap place to live. Public transport is constant, resources are plentiful, infrastructure is abundant, and the town keeps growing. You just said there's no phone lines in some sections. That's infrastructure. For those with the money to support themselves, it isn't a bad place to live. On the other hand, with so much competition for work, most residents have no choice but to accept whatever work they can, and to slave away for as little as necessary. Slave wages are standard practice. Workplace safety laws don't apply, and it's every man for himself. For anyone without a white-collar job, this town is hell. And with mere weeks left on our lease, it won't be long before my sister and I experience that hell for ourselves. Of course, looking back over our lives until this point, I can't really complain. Before our parents passed away, Sarah and I lived sheltered, easy lives, never worrying for a second about housework or finances. We lived good lives in a safe neighborhood. We attended an adequate school, ate healthily, and were never far away from medical help. So now, even with all that being stripped away, we're still better off than most others in our situation. Or at least we would be, if I hadn't just single-handedly destroyed our new lives. Whoops! No matter what excuse I give, whether I blame my boss's penny pitching, the foreign anger I felt surging through my body, or merely my desperate need for cash, it doesn't change the fact that I killed a man. Even so, I don't feel guilty. I barely even regret the loss of life. If anything, it was the most fun I've had in months. A single moment of pure bliss, taking me away from the harsh reality of my new life. Rather, what's eating away at me now is the imminent aftermath. Thanks to my selfish act of revenge and self-indulgence, I now have to explain to my only family why, after a mere 2 weeks in this house, we'll be forced to move again. Without a stable source of income, we won't be able to live here much longer, and I refuse to allow my sister to be subjected to discrimination and crime that makes the city so unlivable for the poor.
but with my only chance of recovery resting in the hands of a friend who essentially blackmailed me into meeting with him tonight. I have no illusions over how this will go. So if my choices are to give Sarah a fair warning before the lease expires, or to place my faith in a criminal whom I have known for a mere 2 weeks, then... well, can I even call that a choice? I really like the environments in this. They're simple, like really basic, but it's enough to work. And it's enough to show that they put some work into them. As soon as I entered my temporary home, I noticed a pleasant scent coming from the kitchen. Following my nose, I traced the source of the scent back to the chef of the household, who immediately ran over to my side.
Ah, welcome back. I thought it was about time for you to get home. I've been waiting all afternoon.
The young girl waiting for me was Sarah, my twin sister, the only family I have left. Oh, they're twins. Oh, really? Unlike me, Sarah is still in school, so she's been getting home a few hours earlier than I have lately, giving her ample time to take care of the household chores. Kind, gentle, dependable, smart, Sarah is the image of an ideal little sister, one without whom I'd never have made it this far. I'm not that late, am I?
Not at all. In fact, you're just in time.
In time? In time for what? Given my first observation upon entering the house, I already had a good idea of what awaited me. However, even with Sarah standing before me while I was while wearing an apron, something didn't seem right. Too many W's. In a house with few appliances and shelves stocked with cheap instant food, my sister, who had never cooked for me before, had somehow whipped up a proper meal in anticipation of my return. I could ignore the fact that this house smells like real food for once, but where on earth did the ingredients and utensils come from? Since Sarah and I began living on our own, we've been eating instant food every day, unable to afford anything better. I hear that. With the petty cash we had left, there's no way Sarah could have bought any of this.
In the saucepan, we have white sauce with chunks of sun-dried tomatoes, and in the pot, we have fettuccine pasta. I hope you're hungry.
Hungry is an understatement, but if there's one thing more powerful than my stomach, it's my curiosity. Sarah, where did you get the money for all this? And since when have you known how to cook?
I go out of my way to cook you dinner, and this is how you react? Fine then. I guess I'll have to eat it all myself.
I knew I should have stopped after the first question. Oh well, forget it. Sarah probably just borrowed some things from school, or from one of her friends. Judging by the intro splash, maybe she's a murderer too. Da da da. Maybe it's genetic. Da da da. I don't know.
Anyway, where have you been? Usually you'd have been home an hour ago.
Shit, that's right. Given the situation, I hadn't even thought about what time it was. It's worth trying to come up with an excuse now? We're gonna dismiss. She dismissed me. Nah, better just to play it off. An excuse made up on the spot would just make her suspicious. Just at work. I must have lost track of time. Anyway, did I miss anything?
Ah, now that you mention it, something did arrive for you.
Sarah removed her apron, simultaneously taking out an envelope from her pocket.
Sorry, I know I shouldn't have opened it.
Sarah handed me the envelope, which she attempted to reseal after opening. I peered inside the envelope, and within it I found... money? Wait a minute. There has to be at least $2,000 in here.
I spent a little on utensils and some fresh meat and vegetables. You can't eat instant noodles every day, you know?
Sarah explained to me why the envelope was no longer full, but as I vaguely stared at the money in my hands, she needn't have bothered. Even at the pay I was promised, I should have made less than $1,000 in total. Were there to be over double that left after Sarah's expenses? This must be Marcus's doing. He knows I need money, and that I won't be able to pay him back unless I accept his job offer. Furthermore, Marcus sent the money straight to my sister, eliminating the possibility of me refusing or returning the money. But how did he send it before I murdered the dude? Oh, there we go. But how did he get the money to my sister so early? Did he know ahead of time that Mudo would refuse to pay me? This is all just...
What are you waiting for? Come on, get it while it's hot.
So maybe she's not a murderer. Okay. Interrupting my agitated thoughts, Sarah took me by the hand and led me into the living room. Sitting on the table in front of the couch were placemats, paired with shiny cutlery, more goods we didn't own mere hours ago. Further to that, 2 steaming plates entered my vision moments later as Sarah made another quick stop in the kitchen, bringing with her a heavenly scent.
Come on, put down the money and eat.
As intrigued as I was by the scene before me, the thought of putting down the cash-filled envelope had yet to cross my mind. After all, before I could relax and eat dinner, there was still something I needed to clear up. I will, but before that, how and when did you get this envelope?
Didn't your boss tell you? The envelope was mailed here sometime today.
Well, I get that envelopes are made to be mailed, but an envelope with this much money in it? That's just careless. And extremely suspicious.
I hadn't really thought about that. I just found it slipped under the door before I got home.
That isn't much to go on, but it does confirm my earlier suspicion. Not necessarily. Sarah gets home hours before I do. If this money came from Marcus, he really must have known what would happen ahead of time. Damn it feels like I'm being played by that bastard.
Enough about that. Sit down and eat already. You better not be stalling because you're afraid to eat my cooking.
What? Of course not. Though it is true that she's never cooked for me before. Oh well, it certainly smells nice enough. Wow, this is actually pretty good. Might be because I've been eating instant food for weeks on end, but this tastes like something I'd actually pay for. Though it might taste better if a certain someone wasn't analyzing every bite I take. Maybe some feedback will get Sarah off my back. It's good. Well, it is what she's waiting to hear. This tastes great. You did really well.
Of course I did. Who do you think you're talking to?
On the other hand, I should know better to stroke her ego by now. Whatever the case, it really is nice to be eating real food again.
What are you talking about? It's only been a couple weeks, you know.
For you, maybe. But I've gone from a month of hospital food straight to nothing but instant noodles. Hospital food? Oh, really?
Oh, right. I guess it has been a while for you.
As much as you try to sympathize with Sarah, my life hasn't been so grand lately either. After suffering a severe head injury... Oh! That explains it. And losing months worth of memories as a result, I received the grim news that our parents had been killed in a car crash. Worse, since the circumstances surrounding the crash were deemed suspicious, their assets were frozen, leaving Sarah and I without a dime. Finally, without any close relatives who we could rely on, I had little choice but to quit school and find a job, assuming responsibility for Sarah's well-being. So now, after suffering so much hardship in such a short amount of time, being able to indulge in a peaceful home life like this is a dream come true.
Either way, you're right. It is nice. Feels like we've finally gotten some piece of our old lives back.
Couldn't agree with you more. With that in mind, dear sister, what will be the next step of the Tesla Family Restoration Project? Tesla? Really?
The what?
If we're going to restore our lives to what they were, we need to plan out what we're going to do. What's next? A car? Bigger TV? A live-in maid?
Like I'd let you get a live-in maid, you pervert. But you do have a point. We should have some kind of plan to manage from now on.
What do you call that? A budget?
So what do we need next?
There are a lot of things still missing from this house. The facilities work, and we have minor luxuries like a television and a refrigerator, but it's still a far way off feeling like home. It's not something we need to figure out right now. Just give it some thought.
Right. I shouldn't get too excited about spending money we don't even have yet. Besides, we should be going to bed soon anyway, so...
Right. We should get a second bed.
Huh?
I mean, there's only one bedroom in this house. There's still room for another bed. That way we wouldn't need to share anymore. I'm sure many people would get the wrong idea if I said that I sleep with my sister, but there's really nothing dubious at play here. This house only has a single bedroom, and until now we couldn't afford a second bed. Furthermore, when I suggested that I take the couch, Sarah insisted that I needed to sleep properly for work, and I could tell that she didn't want to be left alone in an unfamiliar house. Twincest, maybe. Okay, buddy. Given the situation, I'd say our decision was correct.
That's a waste of money.
It is? Don't you want a bed of your own again? I mean, surely you're sick of...
Focus on things we need, not things we want. Besides, it's getting late. We should think about it tomorrow.
Huh. Guess my idea wasn't as bright as I thought. Maybe Sarah isn't ready to sleep alone yet after all. Damn, that's weird. Regardless, Sarah was right about one thing. We shouldn't get too excited about spending money we don't even have yet. I should have told Sarah where that money came from, and that there might not be any future payments like it. But I let the atmosphere go to my head, afraid to break the mood. For the first time since our parents died, Sarah was happy, and if tonight pans out, I'd be satisfied with merely prolonging our happiness, even just temporarily. After taking a shower and storing my earnings, I retreated to my bedroom for a few hours of sleep. And we're not going to wake up. I think I'm going to leave it there, because we're probably wearing on time already. But this is interesting. I mean, I've already got a theory going that the head injury I'm guessing came from the crash, but I'm not entirely convinced that he didn't cause the crash, killing his parents. It's a little bit mysterious. But yeah, I might actually check this one out. I might pick up the full version, take it for a spin. But as for the demo, the link will be in the info section. You can check it out for yourself and probably do a better girl voice than I did for Sarah. So yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments, and consider subscribing so you get videos like this on the regular. I put up a lot of stuff every day. If you help me out on Patreon using the link in the upper corner, you can help me put out even more. You can also check me out on Twitter with the username on the lower right, or swing by my website, Negabun.com, for all sorts of content, written, video, and otherwise, that I do regarding gaming.